In the far reaches of the galaxy, a war raged that threatened to extinguish all life. The once mighty Federation of Planets, known for its strength and technological superiority, found itself on the brink of annihilation. The Omnith, a ruthless race of bioengineered warriors, had unleashed their devastating power, crushing all who opposed them. For centuries, hope had flickered like a dying star, and now it seemed to fade into darkness. Captain Zako of the Federation starship Nexus stood on the bridge, staring at the vast emptiness of space. The holographic display showed reports of battles lost and systems overrun. His heart sank as he reviewed the latest intel. His crew, loyal and brave, had fought valiantly, but against the Omnith, it felt as if they were merely delaying the inevitable. Captain, incoming transmission from the Council, his first officer, Lieutenant Amina, announced, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. Zako nodded, steeling himself for the Council's dire update. The holographic image of Chairman Vortox flickered to life, his horned silhouette imposing against the backdrop of the Council chamber. Captain Zako, Vortox began, his tone grave, the situation is critical. We have lost contact with multiple fleets. The Omnith are advancing rapidly. We must consider unconventional measures. Zako clenched his fists. Chairman, we can't abandon hope. We must regroup, reinforce our defenses. Hope, Vortox interrupted, his voice booming. Hope is a luxury we can no longer afford. We need a miracle, and miracles do not come from mere belief. In that moment, a thought sparked in Zako's mind. What if we contacted the humans? The room fell silent. Humans were considered a primitive species, their technology outdated and their society isolated. But Zako had heard whispers of their ingenuity and resilience, tales of a people who had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious. Captain, Amina interjected, skepticism clear in her voice. Humans, they are an uncharted world. What could they possibly offer us? More than you think, Zako replied, his conviction growing. We need to reach out to them. They've been observing the galaxy for decades. They may possess knowledge or technology we're unaware of. Vortox's gaze was sharp, weighing the captain's suggestion. You wish to gamble our fate on a species you know little about. What if they turn out to be a threat instead? Zako met Vortox's gaze firmly. We have no choice. If we continue on this path, we'll lose everything. The humans could be our last hope. After a tense pause, Vortox sighed, his features softening slightly. Very well. You may attempt to contact them, but be wary. If they prove to be a danger, the Federation will hold you responsible. With a nod of gratitude, Zako prepared for the mission ahead. He was determined to uncover the secrets of humanity, a race that had been shrouded in mystery for far too long. Meanwhile, on Earth, Commander Mitchell, a seasoned strategist and leader of a covert human task force, monitored the Federation's activities from a hidden base. He had received intel about the escalating conflict and was ready to act. The fate of the galaxy might soon rest in the hands of his people, and he would do everything in his power to ensure humanity played its part. Admiral Vance, Mitchell said, his voice steady as he addressed the holographic projection of the Admiral. We've been tracking the Federation's movements. If they make contact, we need to be ready. Vance nodded, his expression serious. Indeed, our technology may be outdated, but our spirit is not. We must show the galaxy what humanity is capable of when pushed to the brink. As the humans prepared, Zako initiated contact with Earth. The Nexus transmitted a message, filled with urgency and hope. Humanity, this is Captain Zako of the Federation's starship Nexus. We face a grave threat from the Omnith. We seek your assistance. The galaxy needs you now more than ever. Back on Earth, the transmission reached Mitchell, who listened intently. He exchanged glances with his team, a mix of determination and apprehension evident in their eyes. This is it, he said. The Federation recognizes our potential. We need to respond decisively. Captain, we can't take this lightly. One of his officers warned. The Omnith are brutal. If we engage, we could put ourselves at risk. Mitchell straightened, his resolve unyielding. Or we could save lives. The Federation may be our best chance to show the galaxy what humanity can achieve. With a firm nod, Mitchell initiated their response. Federation Starship Nexus, this is Commander Mitchell. We accept your request for assistance. We will stand with you against the Omnith. As the transmission ended, an electric charge filled the air. The humans were ready to rise, to reclaim their place in the cosmos. They had been silent for too long, but now they would make their voices heard. Back on the Nexus, Zakor felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. Perhaps the humans were not just a last resort. Perhaps they could be the catalyst for change the galaxy so desperately needed. With determination fueling their actions, the two factions, one wary and the other hopeful, prepared to face the storm that was the Omnith. A new alliance was forming, one that could reshape the fate of the galaxy forever. The hidden strength of humanity. Captain Zelka paced the bridge of the Nexus, his thoughts spinning. The Federation's refusal to take the human threat seriously was a critical miscalculation, one that could cost them dearly. Humans had technology that rivaled the Federation, and their strategies were more intricate than the Council could comprehend. The envoy sent to Earth had been ambushed, their ship destroyed, and contact had been lost. The silence following the disaster was deafening, only heightening Zakor's unease. The Council still chose diplomacy, but Zakor feared time was running out. Back on Earth, Commander Mitchell stood in the underground command center, the heart of Earth's military operations. The room was a hive of activity as holographic displays flickered with streams of data, tactical maps, and encrypted communications. The mood was tense, yet resolute. Earth had been preparing for this moment for decades, ever since they had first encountered the Federation. The humans knew they were being watched, monitored by an intergalactic alliance that considered them primitive, but they had kept their true capabilities hidden until now. Admiral Vance's voice echoed through the chamber, steady and commanding. Commander Mitchell, we have received word that the Federation will attempt to open formal relations with us. They are sending another envoy despite their previous loss. This is our opportunity to take control of the situation. Mitchell nodded, his expression serious. Do we engage diplomatically or initiate Phase 3, sir? Vance's holographic image flickered as he crossed his arms, deep in thought. We need to show them our hand, but only enough to make them understand the stakes. Allow the envoy to land, but ensure they see what we want them to see, nothing more. Mitchell saluted. Understood, sir. I'll make the preparations. As Mitchell coordinated the operation, he reflected on humanity's journey. Once isolated and vulnerable, humans had evolved beyond the expectations of the galactic community. Earth's technological advancements, hidden deep within its subterranean cities, had been a carefully guarded secret. On the surface, humans appeared to be a simple species, lacking the sophistication of other spacefaring civilizations. But below, hidden from prying eyes, lay the true strength of their society. Meanwhile, Captain Zelka was growing restless. The more he reviewed the data coming in, the clearer it became that humans were no longer the underdog. Reports of breaches in Federation security systems, missing data, and inexplicable anomalies painted a picture of a civilization that was far more advanced than anyone had anticipated. He summoned his trusted officers to the briefing room. As they gathered around the table, Zucker spoke in a low, urgent voice. The Federation Council may dismiss the humans as insignificant, but I've seen enough to know better. We need to gather more intelligence. If we are to survive this, we must understand what the humans are truly capable of. Lieutenant Rykor, Zakor's chief intelligence officer, nodded in agreement. I've been monitoring human transmissions, Captain. They're highly encrypted, but the sheer volume of data suggests they're coordinating a large-scale operation. I believe they're preparing for something big. Zakor clenched his fists. Then we must be ready. The Council may not act, but we will. The officers exchanged tense glances, but none dared to question their captain. Zerka was right. The humans were not to be underestimated. The day of the Federation envoy's arrival came quickly. Earth's skies were clear as the sleek Federation vessel descended through the atmosphere, escorted by a squadron of human fighters. The humans had allowed the ship to land in one of their gleaming underground cities, giving the alien diplomats a glimpse of their hidden world. Captain Zaka watched the scene unfold from the Nexus, his mind racing with questions. What were the humans planning? What did they hope to achieve with this display of power? On the ground, the Federation diplomats were greeted by a group of human officials. Commander Mitchell was among them, his demeanor calm and controlled as he extended a hand in greeting. "Welcome to Earth," Mitchell said, his voice cool but polite. "We've been expecting you." The leader of the Federation delegation, Ambassador Xareth, eyed Mitchell warily. "Thank you, Commander. We come in peace, seeking to establish formal relations between our two civilizations." Mitchell's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Of course, follow me, and I'll show you our city." As the group made their way through the underground complex, the Federation delegates were awed by the scale and sophistication of the human technology. The architecture was sleek and modern, with towering structures made of advanced materials that glowed softly under artificial sunlight. Holographic displays lined the walls, showing real-time data streams and tactical information. The humans had built a city that rivaled anything in the Federation. Ambassador Xareth's expression darkened. This is not what we expected." Mitchell glanced at him, his tone sharp. "We've been underestimated for a long time. That ends today." As they walked, Mitchell discreetly sent a signal to his team. It was time for the next phase of their plan. The Federation needed to see just enough to realize the power they were dealing with. Suddenly, a series of holographic projections filled the room, showing images of human warships in orbit, heavily armed and ready for battle. Advanced fighter jets patrolled the skies, and massive ground-based defense systems hummed with energy. The display was a clear message: humanity was prepared for war, and they would not back down. Xareth's face paled. "What is the meaning of this?" Mitchell's smile was cold. "We've been preparing for this moment for a long time. The Federation has ignored us, dismissed us as primitive, but we are far from it. We control our own destiny, and we will not be subjugated." Xareth's voice trembled with disbelief. "You can't possibly think you stand a chance against the Federation. We are the most powerful alliance in the galaxy." Mitchell's eyes gleamed with determination. "Power is not always measured by numbers, Ambassador. Sometimes it's measured by resolve. And we humans, we are very good at surviving against the odds." The room fell silent as the weight of Mitchell's words sank in. The Federation had miscalculated. They had assumed the humans were weak, but now they were faced with a civilization that had the capability to challenge their dominance. The envoy had come seeking peace, but they had walked into a trap, one they were ill-prepared to escape. As the diplomatic meeting continued, Captain Zaka watched from the Nexus, his gut telling him that this was only the beginning. The humans had revealed a fraction of their power, and already the Federation was rattled. But what lay beneath the surface? What other secrets were the humans hiding? Zaka knew one thing for certain: the Federation was on the verge of a conflict it might not survive. Back on Earth, Mitchell reported back to Admiral Vance. "The envoy was sufficiently shaken, sir. They now understand the stakes." Vance nodded, satisfied. "Good. Let them report back to their council. It's time the galaxy learned that humanity is not to be trifled with. We've waited long enough." As the transmission ended, Mitchell looked out over the underground city, a small smile playing on his lips. The humans had played their cards perfectly, and now the galaxy would have to reckon with the reality they had so long ignored. Humanity was ready, and they would stop at nothing to ensure their survival. Captain couldn't sleep. His quarters on the Nexus felt smaller than ever, the weight of looming catastrophe pressing on his chest. Every piece of intelligence, every whisper from his spies, every unexplained anomaly pointed to one undeniable truth: Humanity had played the galaxy for fools. They had hidden in plain sight, building their strength while the Federation laughed at their supposed backwardness. He sat at his console, staring at the latest data. Federation outposts near human territory had reported strange signals, ships appearing and vanishing without a trace. Human fleets were on the move, but they were ghosts, impossible to track, let alone confront. The Federation's vast surveillance network, which had mapped every star system in the galaxy, couldn't find them. It was as if the humans had learned how to manipulate space itself. Tapped his fingers against the desk, deep in thought. He had argued with the Federation Council for weeks now, warning them that the humans were no longer a primitive, isolated race. But the Council, arrogant and complacent, refused to act. They believed the humans could be contained with diplomacy, convinced that they were still dealing with a minor annoyance rather than an existential threat. But knew better. He had seen the human warships, their sleek, predatory designs far more advanced than anything the Federation had in its fleet. He had watched as the humans displayed their hidden technology with cold precision, revealing only a fraction of their true capabilities. And he had felt the unease growing within his own ranks, as his officers whispered of a power the galaxy had never seen before. Leaned forward, his decision made. If the Council wouldn't act, he would. He activated a secure comm link to Lieutenant Rykor, his intelligence officer. "Lieutenant, prepare the fleet. We're going to Earth." On Earth, Commander Mitchell stood at the heart of the underground command center, watching as the last pieces of their plan fell into place. The holographic displays around him showed tactical readouts of their fleets, scattered across human-controlled space, moving in perfect synchronization. Each ship, each battalion, had its role to play. Humanity had prepared for this war, and now the time had come to strike. Admiral Vance appeared on one of the central displays, his expression unreadable. "Commander, is everything ready?" Mitchell nodded. "Yes, sir. Our forces are in position. The Federation still has no idea what's about to hit them." Vance's eyes narrowed. "Good. We've waited long enough. They think they can control us, that we're just another species to be subjugated. But we're going to show them what happens when you underestimate humanity." Mitchell's gaze flicked to the tactical map. "And Captain Zucker, do we engage him directly?" Vance's lips curled into a thin smile. "No, let him come. He's the only one in the Federation who sees the truth, and that makes him dangerous. But if we draw him in, make him believe he's uncovered our plans, we can use him to send a message to the rest of the galaxy." Mitchell hesitated for a moment. "And if he refuses to play along?" Vance's smile faded. "Then we eliminate him. Humanity cannot afford to show weakness, not now." Mitchell nodded, his mind already turning to the details of the operation. Was a threat, but he was also an opportunity. If they could defeat him in open combat, it would send shockwaves through the Federation. The rest of the galaxy would finally realize what humanity was capable of. Captain Fleet emerged from hyperspace on the edge of the Sol system, the birthplace of humanity. The vast armada of Federation ships bristled with weaponry, their sleek hulls glinting in the light of the distant sun, stood on the bridge of the Nexus, his eyes fixed on the planet before him. Earth. It looked so fragile from space, a small blue orb floating in the void, but knew better. He had seen the reports, the footage of human ships tearing through Federation patrols with ease. Earth was no longer the vulnerable planet the Federation had once known. It was the center of a new galactic power, one that had the potential to upend the entire balance of the galaxy. "Captain," Lieutenant Rykor's voice broke through Zeka's thoughts. "We've detected human ships on the far side of the system. They're holding position, waiting for us." Zeka's jaw tightened. "Prepare for engagement, but hold fire. I want to see what they do." As the Nexus moved deeper into the system, Zeka's mind raced. The humans had to know he was here. They had allowed his fleet to enter their territory unchallenged, which meant they were planning something. But what? Were they confident enough to think they could take on a full Federation fleet? Zeka's fingers drummed against the console. The humans had kept their secrets well hidden, but now they were beginning to reveal themselves. The question was, how much were they willing to show? On the far side of the system, Commander Mitchell watched as Zeka's fleet approached. The Federation ships were powerful, their numbers vast. But Mitchell wasn't worried. Humanity's true strength lay not in numbers, but in strategy, in the technology they had developed in the shadows, far from the prying eyes of the Federation. "Commander," one of his officers called out, "Zeka's fleet is within range. Shall we engage?" Mitchell shook his head. "Not yet. We need him to see just enough to understand the danger he's in, but not enough to make him think he can win." The officer hesitated. "And if he opens fire?" Mitchell's gaze hardened. "Then we give him a taste of what we're capable of." The human ships held their positions, waiting as Zeka's fleet drew closer. The tension in the command center was palpable, but Mitchell remained calm. They had planned for this moment for years, and now it was finally here. As Zeka's fleet crossed into engagement range, Mitchell gave the order, "Activate the fleet." Captain Zucker watched in disbelief as the human ships seemed to vanish from his senses, their signatures disappearing as if they had never existed. His officers scrambled to make sense of the situation, but Zucker already knew what had happened. The humans had developed stealth technology far beyond anything the Federation had. "Raise shields," Zucker barked, his heart pounding. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers." But it was too late. The human ships reappeared in perfect formation, their weapons already charged. They opened fire in a coordinated barrage, tearing through the Federation fleet with surgical precision. Zeka's ships, caught off guard, struggled to defend themselves, but the humans were too fast, too well coordinated. Zeka's hands clenched into fists as he watched his fleet crumble. The humans had outmaneuvered him, just as he had feared. They had lured him in, made him think he had the upper hand, only to reveal their true strength at the last moment. "Captain, we're losing ships," Lieutenant Rykor shouted, panic in his voice. "We can't hold them off." Zeka's mind raced. He had underestimated the humans, just as the Federation had. But he couldn't retreat now. If he did, the Federation would never recover. They would lose their grip on the galaxy, and humanity would rise to take their place. "Prepare to jump to hyperspace," Zucker ordered, his voice tight. "We need to regroup." But as his officers scrambled to carry out the order, Zucker knew the truth. It was too late. The humans had already won. Back on Earth, Commander Mitchell watched as Zeka's fleet retreated, their ships limping out of the system. The battle had been swift and decisive, just as they had planned. He turned to his officers, a satisfied smile on his face. "Prepare a message for the Federation Council. Let them know what happened here today." The officer nodded. "And Zeka, sir, should we pursue?" Mitchell shook his head. "No, let him go. He'll carry the message for us." As the command center buzzed with activity, Mitchell allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. The Federation had thought they could control humanity, that they could keep Earth in its place. But today, they had learned a hard lesson. Humanity had risen, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Federation Council chamber was a grand, circular room, its walls lined with banners representing the member worlds. It had once been a symbol of unity and strength, but now it felt hollow to Captain Zucker. He stood at the center of the room, every eye on him, 1,000 whispered judgments buzzing in the air. He had just returned from Earth's system, his fleet decimated, his pride shattered. The humans had won a battle that the Council still refused to acknowledge. "Captain Zucker," the High Chancellor's voice echoed through the chamber. His tone was measured, but Zucker could sense the underlying disdain. "You were given a mission to investigate and, if necessary, neutralize the human threat. And yet you return with a report of defeat." Zeka's fists clenched at his sides, but he maintained his composure. "Chancellor, the humans are far more dangerous than we believed. They have technology we've never seen before. Their stealth systems are flawless, their weapons precise. We weren't prepared for what they've become." A murmur spread through the chamber, the council members exchanging uneasy glances. Zucker could feel the disbelief, the arrogance still clinging to them. They had been told for generations that humans were inferior, a species that could be easily manipulated. But now the truth was clawing its way to the surface, and the council didn't want to face it. The Chancellor raised a hand, silencing the room. Captain, you are suggesting that the entire Federation is at risk because of one species, a species that, until recently, was still using primitive spacecraft. Zucker took a deep breath. He had tried diplomacy. He had tried caution. But now, he needed to shake them from their complacency. Chancellor, with all due respect, we are no longer dealing with the humans we once knew. They have been hiding their true capabilities for decades, maybe centuries, and now they are ready to strike. If we do not act, we risk losing everything. The council was silent for a moment, the weight of Zucker's words settling over them like a storm cloud. But it wasn't enough. He could see the doubt in their eyes, the unwillingness to accept the reality he had faced head-on. One of the council members, an elder from the Zarkish system, leaned forward, his reptilian features twisted in skepticism. Captain Zucker, if the humans are as powerful as you claim, why haven't they attacked? Why continue this shadow war? If they truly possess the strength to defeat the Federation, why hold back? Zucker met his gaze, his voice steady. Because they're waiting for the right moment. They don't need to rush. They know we're unprepared. They're watching, learning, calculating. And when they strike, it will be on their terms, not ours. Another murmur rippled through the chamber, but this time it was tinged with fear. The idea of an enemy lurking in the shadows, waiting to pounce, was far more terrifying than any open conflict. The Chancellor stood, his long robes flowing as he addressed the room. We must consider all possibilities before taking drastic action. Captain Zucker's report is concerning, but it is not enough to warrant a full-scale war. We will send additional intelligence teams to monitor the situation. In the meantime, we will continue diplomatic efforts with the humans. Zucker's stomach twisted. More diplomacy. It was like watching a planet burn while arguing over water distribution. But he held his tongue. He knew that pushing too hard now would only backfire. As the council session adjourned, Zucker lingered in the chamber, his thoughts racing. The humans had shown their hand, but only partially. They had the upper hand in technology and tactics, but they hadn't revealed their full fleet, their total might. Why? What were they waiting for? He made his way back to his quarters, mind heavy with the weight of unanswered questions. The human strategy was brilliant in its simplicity. They didn't need to engage in full-on warfare. They just needed to keep the Federation guessing, sowing doubt and fear. And it was working. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Vance stood before the Council of Human Military Leaders in an underground facility deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean. The room was sparse but functional, filled with tactical displays and hard-faced officers who had been preparing for this moment their entire lives. Vance's voice was cold, precise. Captain Zucker is back with the Federation. He's warned them about our capabilities, but they still don't understand the full scope of what we've built. General Hartley, a grizzled veteran of the early skirmishes with the Federation, grunted in agreement. Let them stay blind a little longer. We've got time. Their intelligence networks can't penetrate our stealth systems, and their diplomats still think they're dealing with the humans of a century ago. Vance nodded. But we can't rely on that forever. Zucker is dangerous. He's the only one who understands how serious this is. If he convinces the Federation to mobilize fully, we'll be looking at a much bloodier conflict. General Hartley tapped a finger on the table. So what's the play? Do we hit them now, while they're still debating in their fancy council chambers? Vance shook his head. Not yet. We're not ready for a full-scale invasion. Our fleets are powerful, but the Federation still outnumbers us. We need to choose our battles carefully, keep them on the defensive, destabilize them from within. A murmur of agreement spread through the room. The strategy had been the same from the beginning. Slow, deliberate moves that kept the Federation guessing while humanity's true power continued to grow. They had spent decades hiding their advancements, building their fleets in the farthest reaches of space, away from prying eyes. Now, they were almost ready. But almost wasn't good enough. Back in Federation space, Captain returned to his ship, his frustration mounting. The Council's refusal to act had left him no choice but to take matters into his own hands. He couldn't wait for the Federation's sluggish bureaucracy to catch up to reality. As the Nexus prepared for another mission, made a decision. He would go rogue. If the Council wouldn't listen, then he would gather allies who understood the threat humanity posed. There were others within the military who shared his concerns, officers who had seen the same things he had, who knew the humans were playing along. Activated a secure channel, sending coded messages to those he trusted. It was a risk, but he couldn't afford to wait any longer. Lieutenant Rykor, Zucker called to his second-in-command, who had been with him since the beginning of this crisis. Prepare for a deep reconnaissance mission. We're going back to human space. Zucker's gaze hardened. This time, we'll be ready. We need more than just guesses and suspicions. We need hard evidence, and if the Council won't give us the resources we need, we'll have to find them ourselves. The Nexus quietly slipped away from its moorings, leaving Federation space behind once again. But this time, Zucker wasn't going to observe. He was going to find out exactly what the humans were hiding, and if necessary, strike back before they could unleash their full power. Back on Earth, Admiral Vance watched as the human fleet continued its quiet expansion, hundreds of ships being outfitted with the latest stealth technology. They had created a system of rapid production, churning out warships faster than the Federation could ever imagine. But Vance knew the Federation wasn't their only enemy. The galaxy was full of opportunistic species, watching and waiting for any sign of weakness. And even within humanity, there were factions that believed the time for secrecy was over, that they should declare war openly and crush the Federation once and for all. He couldn't let that happen. Humanity's greatest strength was its ability to adapt, to learn from its mistakes, to turn its weaknesses into advantages. They had been underestimated for too long, and now they were going to prove that no matter how advanced the galaxy thought it was, humans could always outthink, outfight, and outlast any enemy. The silent war continued, but Vance knew it was only a matter of time before the real conflict erupted, and when it did, humanity would be ready.